What is going on, everyone? Let's talk with Hayden here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well today. Let me just make sure my audio is fine. Just give me 1 second. Let's fix that, and then we will be locked and loaded for today's stream. Just give me 1 second, guys. Let's fix that. All right, we are all set, but what is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well today. I most certainly am doing well as always. We got some great stuff to talk about in today's stream. Maybe a little bit of raging too. The Mets are playing well, but the stuff we're going to be raging about is not in regards to how the Mets are playing. It's going to be some front office decisions. So we are going to get into that, but please, everyone, before we get into all of this stuff, please, everyone, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, tell your friends about this channel. If you have any comments, questions, and concerns, do not hesitate. Drop them in the comment section below. In today's stream, we are going to be going over the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals series summary. We're going to be recapping that, everything that we liked, what we saw. Jacob Degrom, a.k.a. Jacob the GOAT, made his debut, so we are going to be going over that. As always, which is super exciting. Then we are going to be transitioning into arguably one of the biggest series that the Mets are about to play so far this season in their rival, the Atlanta Braves, a 5-game set. So we are going to be previewing that. Then we're going to go over the trade deadline a little bit, some Mets news, farm system, injury, this and that. And then, of course, all of your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. If you do have any regarding the Mets, the Astros, any team in baseball, I know it says Mets talk, but I don't mind being baseball talk. I definitely enjoy talking all baseball for the most part. So let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive right into all of the Mets and Nationals series. It was a really great series. So let's take a dive into game one. The New York Mets went into D.C. and took 2 of 3 games against the AAA Nationals practically, getting things started in game one. The New York Mets won game one, which was Monday's game, by a score of 7-3. You really like to see that. Very exciting to see. Obviously, as we could see, the New York Mets won this game by a score of 7-3, as stated. We had Mad Max Scherzer on the bump for the New York Mets, and Scherzer came on the mound doing Scherzer-like things, going 6 2/3 inning, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Like I said, for the most part, he looked really well, Scherzer. He had a little unfortunate, in the first inning with some, with his defense, and there was an error, but it didn't get to him, obviously, as a veteran. He's experienced. He doesn't let the small stuff get to him. But Scherzer looked good. I mean, he really confused this Nationals lineup with swinging and missing, with chasing. There were a couple hard hit balls, but the defense did their job. Overall, no major, complaints with Scherzer. The fastball looked good. His slider, back foot door slider, was on point. So, like I said, no major complaints with Scherzer. Pretty impressed with what I saw out of him. Obviously, taking a little look-see at the bullpen. The bullpen did pretty good for the most part. Obviously, didn't really give up any runs, so that's enjoyable. Dole Rodriguez came in for 1 inning in relief, threw 15 pitches, walked a batter. Like I said, pretty good outing for him for the most part. And then following that, Adam Ottavino came in for 1 1/3 of an inning to close out this game. Struck out 1 batter, 19 pitches. So bullpen looked pretty good for the most part. No major complaints or things to mention with the bullpen. Quiet night. They did their job. They did what they were supposed to against the Nationals offense that was struggling. So that's really what you like to see there. So good to see. Tip of the cap to the Mets pitching staff in game one. Getting into some of this offense, obviously, the Mets offense was on a roll. They were facing Patrick Corbin, a dude who, the Mets really killed on from the 2nd and 3rd inning onwards. Obviously, the Mets scored 7 runs, 13 hits. They were successful with driving in runners with runners in scoring position, so that's always going to be huge for this team, especially we know how they can fare against that. So very good to see. Like I said, getting things started in the 2nd inning. You had runners in scoring position for Jeff McNeil, and what does Jeff McClutch do? He drives them in. Jeff McNeil starts things off with an RBI single to right to bring in Pete Alonso. Going on, the Mets were working with the 2 outs in the 2nd inning. Tomas Nido had an RBI single to center to bring in Mark Canha. Following that, Starling Marte singles to right to bring in Jeff McNeil. Going into the 3rd inning, Pete Alonso had a solo home run to left, 390 feet. I'll tell you, we talk a ball that's hit hard. I mean, the launch angle on this was 17 degrees. This dude ripped that ball 116 miles per hour. I mean, that is just insane. The raw power this dude has, phenomenal home run there. I thought that was a double off the wall, but that just got into the Nationals bullpen, the Mets bullpen. So really good to see there. And then following that, in the 6th inning, Francisco Lindor breaks this game wide open with a 3-run homer to left center, 396 feet, to bring in Nimmo, Marte, and himself. So really good to see Lindor put the icing on the cake for the Mets in this game. Like I said, Mets had a phenomenal game in Game 1, scoring by a score of 7-3. Obviously, Max Scherzer gets his 7th win of the year. Let's get into Game 2. Game 2 was not as enjoyable for the Mets. The Mets lost Game 2 by a score of 5-1. Not an ideal game. We actually had Jacob Degrom back on the mound. Degrom pitching in his first start in over a year. We know that he's been out for pretty much a year due to multiple injuries, but Degrom finally came back. Really good to see Degrom back in the process. But Degrom did Degrom-like things. He looked good. Struck out the side in the first inning. We like to see that. But Degrom, 5 innings, 3 hits, a run, 6 strikeouts, 59 pitches with 46 of those in the strike zone. So this dude literally just attacks the zone. So, I mean, these guys are going to have to start chasing and start swinging. When you look at Degrom, a lot of the pitches that were hit were, really, I don't want to say lucky hits, but I mean, these were, above belt high fastballs. I mean, pitches that these Nationals team were having to chase like crazy. And it's just amazing that, they were able to make contact on some of DeGrom's pitches because they were just in a weird location that not many guys would be able to hit. But yeah, DeGrom looked good, like I said. I mean, his velocity was up there, 102, 103 first inning. His fastball was good. His slider was good. He threw a changeup. We know that's been something that's been pretty interesting for DeGrom. Obviously recommended most likely by Max Scherzer. We know that Scherzer recommended that in spring training, that DeGrom, use some other pitches, in, his outings. So really good to see DeGrom take the advice of Max Scherzer. DeGrom looked good. The bullpens did not, however. Steven Nagosic came in the 6th inning, and we're going to get to the bullpen pretty soon. 2 hits, 3 runs, a strikeout. Following that, Yohan Lopez came in. 2 hits, a run, and 2 strikeouts. And then following that, Tommy Hunter came in for an inning, a hit, a walk, 2 strikeouts. So, yeah, bullpens did not have the best night. We are going to get into their bullpen in a little bit. But, yeah, so that was that for the most part. Like I said, slow night offensively for the most part. Only a run, 6 hits. Yeah, really rough night offensively. I'll talk about the run creation. In the 6th inning, Francisco Lindor had a solo home run to right. That was it. So let's focus on other happy thoughts. And that is in Game 3. And the New York Mets won Games 3 by a score of 9-5. Obviously, getting things started, we had Chris Bassitt on the bump for the New York Mets. And Bassitt with another phenomenal outing. This dude has been really underrated this season. Bassitt, 7 innings, 6 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts, 94 pitches, with 70 of those in the strike zone. So yeah, I mean, really impressive outing once again from Chris Bassitt. He mixed up his pitches well. His fastball looked nice. He was dotting the strike zone. No major complaints with Bassitt. Really, I mean, he worked really well behind the plate with Patrick Mazeika. We know in the past they've had their fair share of communication issues, so good to see them on point and communicating with each other well. Otherwise, no major complaints and, nothing really else to say with Bassitt. He looked good. He got the job done. Lowered his ERA, lowered his whip, lowered pretty much all of his stats. So that's really what you like to see in a guy like Bassitt. So tip of the cap to him, obviously. Really, really enjoyed seeing that outing from him. So tip of the cap to him. Bullpen came in. Trevor May came in for his first outing in quite a while. I believe his first outing since May. So he came in with an inning, a hit, a strikeout, 16 pitches, 10 with those in the strike zone. Hopefully, like I said, we're going to get into the bullpen a little bit more. So we'll just keep it, vague when it comes to the commentary for the bullpen in this series. But yeah, May looks good, and he's going to need to step up big time now. Following that, Michael Givens came in. The Mets trade deadline acquisition. Two-thirds of an inning, 5 hits, 5 runs. We'll get into him a little bit more. And then following that, Seth Lugo came in to finish things out. 1/3 of an inning, a hit, 8 pitches, 4 strikes. So, yeah, pretty good outing for Lugo to save things. Let's get into the offense. The offense was locked and loaded with 9 runs and 14 hits. That's what you like to see. Getting things started with the offense in the 3rd inning, Pete Alonso with a 2-run homer to center, 411 feet to bring in himself and Francisco Lindor. Going on into the 5th inning, Daniel Vogelbach with a grand slam to right field, 363 feet into the Nationals bullpen to bring in himself, Nimmo, Marte, and Alonso. Going on into the 6th inning, Tomas Nido had an RBI double to right center to bring in Luis Guillorme. Going into the 6th inning also, Starling Marte grounded out into a fielder's choice to bring in Brandon Nimmo. And then in the 9th inning, to cap things off, Tomas Nido grounded out to second to bring in Jeff McNeil. So pretty good game offensively. I mean, the fact is the Mets, didn't strike out much. I mean, you had 3 walks and 5 strikeouts, so you like that ratio. Had a total of 27 guys on bases. So, I mean, they were really working this Nationals pitching staff. I mean, obviously, guys like Anibal Sanchez really struggled. You kicked him out of the game early, and then you feasted on the Nationals bullpen, which is something that you should be doing. But, pretty good night for the most part. Nimmo 3 for 4, Alonso 3 for 4, Lindor 1 for 3 with the walk. McNeil 3 for 5. All 3 of his hits were doubles, so you like to see that. Overall, really good game for the Mets offense. Chris Bassett gets the win. That's what you like to see. So the Mets take 2 of 3 in Washington, D.C. Obviously, they took advantage of a poor Nationals offense and a poor Nationals rotation and bullpen. Nationals made some costly errors, and the Mets came back and said, you should have not made those errors, and were able to hit against them and drive in those runs that the Nationals had errors on. So that's what good ball teams do. So that's really what you like to see. But now the New York Mets are going home to play a 5-game series against the Atlanta Braves. That is right, a 5-game series. It's going to be a huge series for the New York Mets, a 5-game series. We don't see many 5-game series. We'll see some 4 and 3. But you don't see a 5-game series every now and then. So let's get into that. The Mets are coming into Citi Field with a record of 66-38, a record of 31-17 at home, with the Atlanta Braves, who have a record of 63-42 and 26-20 on the road. The Atlanta Braves coming off of a 2-game set against the Philadelphia Phillies, where they were 1-1, where they were 1 out of 2. It was a 2-game series, but they did take a sweep against the Diamondbacks prior to that for their last full series. Braves are looking pretty good. They have been pretty hot for the most part. Obviously, the Mets have not played them a whole lot this season, and I know that the Mets were going into this saying, well, luckily we'll be playing the Braves after the deadline, and we'll get into that more, but we'll see how things go. Let's get started with tonight's game, which will start at 7:10 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Mets will be facing the Atlanta Braves, and Carlos Carrasco will be on the bump for the New York Mets. Carrasco obviously having a great season, 11-4 on the season. 3.79 ERA, a 1.31 whip, 111 and 2/3 innings pitched, 108 strikeouts. Carrasco's having a pretty good season for the most part. Fastball slider combination has been really nice. He's been going pretty lengthy. The length that he's been giving you has been phenomenal. He's going deep into games. We could see 111 pitches. A lot of guys are swinging and missing on him, a lot of chasing. You could see with those 108 strikeouts. He's really been doing an up-to-par job. Like I said, the first inning complexities are really gone for the most part. He hasn't really been having them at all. He had it briefly in the Yankee series, like I said, but otherwise he's been doing a really up-to-par job. Obviously, like I said, high strikeout guy. We know the Braves are a high strikeout team. Braves are a team that hit a lot of home runs and strike out a lot. And, you look at a lot of, the guys in the Mets rotation, Carrasco, Bassett, Peterson. They're capable of giving up plenty of home runs and striking out guys. So, the pitching is really going to have to step up big time this series for success. So we'll see how things could share there. So it's going to be exciting. Obviously, for the Atlanta Braves, they will have Kyle Wright, who's having a pretty good season too, 13-4 in the season, 2.93 ERA, 1.15 whip, 122 and 2/3 innings pitched, 120 strikeouts. Definitely could have a little issue with the long ball, so maybe the Mets could take advantage of that. nice splitter, nice slider. So definitely Mets can, feast on that slider, depending if you're a guy like Alonso, Lindor, try and take on that slider. So that's what you really hope to see for there. Otherwise, that'll be tonight's game at 7:10. Getting into game 2, which will be tomorrow's game. The New York Mets will have Taijuan Walker on the bump for the New York Mets. Walker, great season, 9-2 on the season, 2.79 ERA, a 1.13 WHIP, 103 and 1/3 innings pitched, 80 strikeouts. Walker's having a really good season for the most part. He's given up a lot of soft, light contact. He hasn't been giving up many barrels, which is good. He's throwing that split finger really hard. It's been a big part to his success. The velocity has really increased on it. The splitter-slider combination has been nice. Walker could have a day where he's going to get a lot of strikeouts, a lot of swinging and misses, or a lot of ground balls. And considering you're playing the Atlanta Braves, like I said, a team that is high in strikeouts and high in home runs, they'll be chasing, they'll be swinging for the fences. Walker could definitely have a day where he, gives up, 10, 11 strikeouts. You could see something like that. So that'll be the thing with Walker. Hopefully you have a big outing from him. Obviously, Ian Anderson will be on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Anderson, 9-6 on the season, 4.99 ERA, a 1.50 WHIP, 101 innings pitched, 90 strikeouts. Anderson having a little bit of an issue with the long ball. He's been having an okay season. Like I said, he's been giving up a lot of hits, obviously, solo hits, singles, doubles, extra base hits, up the gap. But the long ball has been a little bit of a concern for him this season. So like I said, Mets could easily take advantage of that to crack open this game. So that'll be tomorrow's game, game 2. Getting into game 3, which will be game 1 of a 2-day doubleheader, which will be on Saturday. Mets will have Mad Max Scherzer on the bump for the New York Mets. Scherzer having a phenomenal season as always. Big surprise to say there. Scherzer is 7-2 on the season, 2.13 ERA, 0.92 WHIP, 88 and 2/3 innings pitched, 109 strikeouts. Scherzer, like I said, for the most part, confused the hitters with that back. He has multiple sliders: the back foot door slider, the Gulf side slider. So definitely could really try and confuse up this Nationals lineup with that. So that'll be something good to see if you can get there. So like I said, hopefully you can try and get something there. So Scherzer will be on the bump for game 1. Obviously, the Braves will have their southpaw in Max Fried. We know he's a lefty. A little concerning. We know how the Mets are against left-handed pitching. Max Fried is having a pretty good season, helping out that rotation big time. 10-3 on the season, a 2.58 ERA, a 1.07 WHIP, 132 and 1/3 innings pitched. So he's gone a lot of innings this year. 122 strikeouts. Fried is having a great season. He'll give up some soft contact. Like I said, only 6 home runs on the year. Doesn't walk many batters. Throws a lot in the strike zone. So that has its pro and con for the most part, depending on what type of hitter you are. Depending on his repertoire and his arsenal, if he's going to be, pinpointing the strike zone down the middle, painting the strike zone on the corners. So, we'll see how the Mets can share their selective hitting on that. Obviously, game 2 of the doubleheader, which is a Saturday game. The starters are unknown for the Mets. Most likely will be David Peterson. You know how Peterson has been pretty big as a starter for the Mets this season. He started against the Braves last time, and he had a really good outing going 6 innings scoreless, only giving up 2 hits until what happened in the 6th inning. But Peterson has good numbers against the Braves this year. It'll most likely be him starting unless they go with the Trevor Williams or an opener, which I think that'd kind of be silly to go for an opener considering it's a doubleheader. You're going to want your bullpen healthy. Rest days are lacked for the next couple days. So probably David Peterson would make the most sense. Obviously, Tyler Mcgill, I don't think is back yet. And I don't know when he's going to be back. Probably David Peterson would be the most likely bet. Maybe Trevor Williams, unless you kind of want to go like David Peterson for 5 or 6, if he could go the length, and then maybe Williams kind of, give the bullpen a rest. Williams can go, 4 innings or so. Something like that could work. I think that's ideal. I would definitely go for that 100%. And then obviously for the Atlanta Braves, they will have their new trade deadline acquisition in Jake Odorizzi. Odorizzi obviously has not played for the Braves at all this year. He's coming off a okay season with the Astros, so we'll see how the Mets could share against him. And then getting into Game 5 and the final game of this 5-game series. It will be on ESPN for Sunday, but it is a 4:10 start, not the 7:10 start. So that is, I guess, good. The Mets will have Jacob Degrom on the bump for the New York Mets. Degrom, like I said, only has one outing this year, but Degrom looked good. Currently does have nothing on the win-loss record for the season. 1.80 ERA, 0.60 whip, 5 innings pitched. In those 5 innings pitched, we know he has 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, 0 walks, and 0 home runs. Degrom has pretty good numbers against the Braves. Obviously, he's pitched against them since his rookie season in 2014. So obviously, you hope for a big game from Degrom. And the Braves will have their rookie, possibly rookie of the year candidate on the bump for them in Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider's been having a really good season for them, definitely helping out that rotation big time. 6-3 on the season, 2.79 ERA, 0.99 whip, 87 innings pitched, 133 strikeouts. Strikeout machine. I mean, this dude just comes into outings, 9 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts. 15 swinging and misses. I mean, this dude is just having a phenomenal season. So hopefully, I think this is probably going to be one of the most craziest games that the Mets play, considering that Strider's having a really good season. So, yeah, you hope that the Mets could try and really get that game. So that'll be that game. My predictions, obviously, it is a 5-game set. What you would like to see, and I think what would be reasonable, if you could take 3 of 5. It's a 5-game set. If you take 3 of 5, I think you can get something working there big time. Like I said, 3 of 5 would be ideal. It's still going to keep you in first place. Like I said, first place could easily be the Mets or the Braves leaving, and ending this series. So, like I said, we're going to have to see how things can go there. The Atlanta Braves have been hot, but so have the Mets. Obviously, the Atlanta Braves are 3.5 games back. As we know, in-division games count as a full game. So, 2 games that the Braves win, let's say they win the first 2, then they're only half a game back. So, like I said, win 3 of 5, and they'll still be in first place. Mets are 8-2 in their last 10. Braves are 6-4 in their last 10. So the Mets are hot. They're 7-8. They're 7 for 8 in their last 8 games. So you like to see that. The Mets offense is hot. The Mets pitching is hot. We are going to get into their bullpen. I think someone actually commented about the deadline, so I'm probably just going to feed off of that, to be honest. But overall, yeah. So it's going to be a pretty big series, probably the biggest series. The crowd is going to be electric. I think this is probably going to be the most exciting series overall, to say for the least. Give me 1 second, guys. I want to pull up all right, sorry about that. All right. So let's get into your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. Let's get into it. So I think someone commented it before about the deadline. So I was just going to feed off of that comment. And I think Kobe. I'll just call for Kobe. All right, Kobe, you it's your time to shine. So let's get into the trade deadline. So the New York Mets, obviously, they're having a good season. You're in first place. The bats are looking good. You got Degrom back. The pitching's looking good. But there's always room for improvement. Even the best teams in baseball, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, always could use some improvement. There's no team that's 100% perfect. For example, the bullpen was something that needed to be addressed. This is going to get PG-13, so I recommend you guys lower your volume in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Billy Eppler, what the fuck are we doing, dude? Billy Eppler had a phenomenal offseason. I'll tip my cap to that, but he wet the bed big time at this trade deadline. Michael Givens is not the reliever that you go after. He is, but the fact is, you do not address your bullpen at all. The Mets needed a remedy for their left-handed pitching, and they didn't address it. Billy Eppler, in his press conference, said that he trusts Dolly Rodriguez. No, you don't. Unless he completely proves me wrong, but right now, even if you have trust in Dolly Rodriguez, it's one guy. He pitches 3 days in a row. That fourth day, who's your lefty? It's really frustrating that Billy Eppler decided to, have the sleepy Sandy Alderson, Will Pond mentality. I get it. You address the offense, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to address this bullpen because the fact is, David Robertson, that's the number one guy on these streams for the past month. I was getting 1,000 comments. Should the Mets get David Robertson? David Robertson would be great. Nice veteran. You can get him on a cheap deal. The Philadelphia Phillies acquired him, and the Phillies gave up their 26th pick in their farm. And the Phillies farm is ass. So the fact is the Phillies gave up nothing for David Robertson. The Mets could have gave up a Jalen Palmer, and that would have been it. But the Mets didn't want to do that. I find it very frustrating that that's the route the Mets really did take. I really do think it is frustrating because right now we saw how the bullpen was in the National Series. I mean, we still won it, but they could have easily blown it. The fact that I'm seeing Steven Nagosic and Juan Lopez in the 6th and 7th inning really says something. We have no setup man. Who's our setup man? You tell me. I have no idea. Is it Seth Lugo still? I find it very frustrating and very upsetting that the Mets really didn't want to do much at the deadline. Like I said, the Mets bullpen is definitely capable of being sneaky. I understand that. I really do. Trevor May's coming back. That's great. We haven't seen what Trevor May is capable of for, I don't know, since his time in Minnesota. We haven't seen it with the Mets. And you look at this Mets roster now, and I get it. You could say, 2016, guys like Seth Lugo and Robert Gsellman, weren't expected to be good, but were. This is your bullpen, and tell me if you trust this bullpen. Dolly Rodriguez. Okay. Tommy Hunter. Okay. Michael Givens. Adam Ottavino. Trevor May. Seth Lugo, and Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz is great. Okay, fine. Put Diaz out of the picture. He's been great. But there's going to be games where there's sometimes Diaz can't close it out. If he's pitched 3 days in a row, if he needs an off day, if it's not a save situation. I don't trust Dolly Rodriguez. I mean, we saw Juan Lopez and Steven Nagosic, and they've been optioned. They're not good in high leverage. I mean, yeah, you could put David Peterson in the bullpen, okay, but we've seen how he's been in the bullpen in 2 starts, and it's been a little inadequate. But, there's plenty of time to improve, don't get me wrong. Tyler Mcgill, I mean, the Mets said that they would likely put him in the bullpen. We've never seen Mcgill in the bullpen. We don't know if it's going to be a fundamental thing, a mental thing, how he's going to fare in the bullpen. Unless that Seth Lugo is going to come back, and I'll give Lugo this. He's been looking good. His last couple outings, he's been looking good. But in order for this Mets bullpen to be really successful, you're going to need a Seth Lugo outing of 2019. You're going to need Adam Ottavino to continue to be consistent. Edwin Diaz continue what he's doing. Adam Ottavino, have that slider and accuracy be in the same sentence. Trevor May, give me that 2019 Minnesota Twins Trevor May. Tommy Hunter can continue what he's doing, just limit the walks and soft hits. Williams, continue what he's doing. Oh, yeah, I just really don't get it. This was your time to shine with the bullpen arm, and you just decided to sit back. I mean, really, I don't understand why David Robertson was not even looked at. And let's get into the offense. And maybe the offense isn't as bad. It's a little sneaky, a little bit of, an Eppler mentality of sneakiness. Darren Ruff, okay, that's okay. But did you see what you gave up for the dude? You overpaid big time. So listen, I'm not going to sit on here and say, the season's over. Oh, Billy Eppler did a horrible job. He had an unfortunate deadline. I'll say this was definitely, he really had his unfortunate deadline. It was his first. Would have been nice to really make a big move. I mean, I'm still shocked that the Cubs kept Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ. They're going to walk and get nothing out of them. I think that was a silly move. So Really don't understand why they did that. I really don't. Kobe, I'd rate it a 3. I mean, unless Michael Givens comes in and is consistent, I get it. He's been great with the Cubs. It was one unfortunate game, so I'm not going to go after him and penalize him like crazy for that. But you need other guys. You really do. Like a David Robertson would have been great. A Jorge Lopez would have been great. A Michael Fulmer, and you just really laid back and waited to the last hour. And it's just really unfortunate. And, unless the Mets are, going to be willing to call up a guy from, AAA or AA or something, Jose Budo or someone, I don't know. But it's just really unfortunate that the Mets took this route, this deadline, kind of just waited back. So, like I said, we'll see. But let's get on to happier things. I mean, we haven't ranted much on this channel, I know, lately because the Mets are doing well, but this deadline was just really exasperating. I mean, it really was. And I get it. A lot of people were saying I feel, I have faith in Billy Eppler. I trust what he does. Yeah, but I don't think he would, do this. But let's get into your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. So what's going on, everyone? Let's get into it. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, drop it below. Seth, what's happening, brother? Gio, Alex, Trey, Peter, Alex, Ivan Dos, Gio, Mothman, what's going on? Oh my God, have you been seeing what? Cal, what's going on? Beatty, Alvarez, and Mauricio we're doing. Yeah, Alvarez and the farm is looking good, I'll say for the least. Alvarez is really starting to hit the long ball. He got into his little groove, I guess you could say, in AAA. We saw when he first got called up at AAA that, he was striking out, 2-3 times a game. And now he's kind of just waiting back, being a selective hitter and waiting for the pitchers to pitch to him in the zone and just pimping a ball into the upper deck. So really good for Alvarez to, finally get into his groove for the most part. You really like to see that. Obviously, Beatty's doing a great job. He's been hitting really well. Mauricio's been hitting really well. So right now, this farm's looking good. You have Vientos too, who's been really consistent and playing well. Obviously, you have Alex Ramirez, a guy who's pretty underrated and hasn't been spoken about a whole lot this season. So hopefully, they can continue to continue their success in the farm. Obviously, the farm system right now for the Mets looks probably as great as it does as. Yeah, I mean, the Mets farm is looking as great as it has in quite a while. I mean, I know 2017, it was pretty hyped up with Rosario, and, Smith, and I mean, it hasn't really worked out great, but the talent is much more there, you could say. Also, Given sucks. He made me lose $100 on FanDuel. I'm sorry to hear that. Marco, what's going on? Nick, what's going on? Mouthman says, I see the next 5 days. I see rain in the next 5 days. Think we get games in? Let's look at the weather. Flushing weather report with Hayden. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it is going to rain every day. So tonight, 7. Isolated thunderstorms around 8. It's going to rain watch all these games get canceled. Imagine. Jeez, yeah, it's going to rain every single day. My goodness. Well, that's also that'd be beneficial, I guess. Maybe you play 3 or 4 games then. Cal, what's going on? Cal says, "Hey Hayden, how are you? Great series against the Nationals. Would have liked to sweep, but I'll take 2 of 3. Yeah, same here, man. You win the series. That's all I asked for." Kobe says, "Hey Hayden, what's up, bro? 2 of 3 against the Nationals. I'll take it. Now on to the Braves with the 5 games LFGM. Yep, this is going to be a huge series for the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves too. A series that is definitely capable of, who will be in first place, at the end of the weekend. So this is really going to be a huge series. I mean, I'm really excited for this series. I mean, you thought the Subway Series was big, or, the last series we had in Atlanta when we took 2 of 3. This is going to be bigger because it's more games. And yeah, I mean, simply enough, it's more games and bigger atmosphere, tighter situation. Trey says the next 2 weeks could easily decide the season. 9 games versus the Braves and 7 versus the Phillies from today, the 21st. September is a cakewalk on paper. Let's hope the boys go in and stay strong. Yeah, I mean, I actually have been hearing that the September schedule is pretty easy. Let's Google the schedule. Mets schedule. So obviously, like I said, you're going to play against the Braves. August just started, so but let's see. September, you're going to play against the Nationals, the Pirates, the Marlins, the Cubs, the Pirates, the Brewers, the Athletics, the Marlins, the Braves. Yeah, I mean, you're playing a pretty easy schedule. I mean, you're playing both of your series against the Pirates, a series against the Cubs at home, a series against the Nationals at home, series against the A's at Oakland. Yeah, I'd say you kind of have the advantage there. I mean, you could easily expect, a 15, 16, 17, win, games that are won in September. Mothman, what's going on? Mothman says our offense has been taken. Our offense has been taking off. Our pitching has been great. Bullpen has been trash. Simple as that. Yeah, I mean, pretty much right now, as that's been the story for Mets most of the season for the most part. The offense has been doing a great job. I mean, 2-out hitting with runners in scoring position, really selective hitting, fundamental hitting, a lot of 2-strike, 2-out hitting. I think that the team led that stat in the first half. Took a little bit of a dive back going into the All-Star break, but I think they're definitely back into that category. I mean, if you want to look at the Mets offensively, I mean, if you want to look at them with all their offensive stats, I actually have it on my phone saved. So right now, the New York Mets average 4.66 runs per game, which is 4th in the National League. They have a 253 average, which is 3rd in the National League. They have a 262 average with runners in scoring position, which is 4th in the National League. They have 101 homers, which is 9th in the National League, and a 726 OPS, which is 6th in the National League. So one little interesting thing to point out is 101 homers, and they're 9th in the National League. The fact is you're scoring, 15, 16 runs, yet you're 9th in the National League in homers. So that really goes to show you're hitting for plenty of singles, walking a lot, and hitting a lot of doubles, a lot of extra base hits. If this Mets team could hit for some power, you could expect much larger, scoring games for the Mets. And we've been seeing it lately. There was that series in Miami, that game in Miami where we had 19 hits. Not a single one of those were a home run. I mean, that's just phenomenal to think about. So hopefully the Mets can continue to do what they're doing with that, continue to hit with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, selective hitting, and you'll be fine. Take pitches, walk, get on base. And pitching's been doing a great job. I agree. Peter says, overall thoughts on the trade deadline, very disappointing in Billy Eppler. Made little to no improvement, kind of felt like a Wilpon moment. Yeah, hopefully you heard what I said, but yeah, likewise, man. Connor says, for historical perspective, the Mets have only had a .600 winning percentage 4 times in their history. So this, by far, one of the best years up until now. Yeah, let's see what their winning percentage is right now. I think it's like 6 something, I think. 635. So, I mean, you like to see that, obviously. That's really good. The best right now is a 660, which is the Yankees, who are 70-36. So, obviously only, 4 games back from the Yankees. So, that's pretty interesting. Dodgers have 683, 71. Oh, so actually the Dodgers have the best record. Okay, I didn't even see that. I kind of forgot about the Dodgers. But, yeah, so the Dodgers have the best record. That's right. Yeah, the Yankees lost the series against the Mariners. That is correct. Right. So, yeah, we'll see how they could end their season. Hopefully it's with a good record. Cal says Daniel Vogelbach hitting a grand slam off the Chick-fil-A sign is one of the greatest thing that ever happened. Yeah, that really was. I know they used to have that at Citi Fields and they tore it down. Maybe you put it up to motivate, the Burger fan club. Wilson Contreras just homered. That's interesting to focus on. Kind of just looking at Twitter, seeing if there's any big news popping up. Michael Barron says the Mets are entering a stretch where they will play 16 games against the Braves and Phillies over the next 18 days. Nobody said it would be easy. Yeah, that's going to be pretty rough. Yeah, that's going to be a big, 2.5 weeks right there, to say for the least. The Mets are 33-13. With the Mets have a record of 33-13 against NL East opponents this season. That's the second best divisional record in baseball. So the Mets have pretty good numbers when they're playing division rivals. I know most of those have been against the Phillies, the Marlins, the Nationals. I get it. You've only had, a series or two really against the Braves. But still, you played two and you won them both against the Braves. So still counts. Urzo, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. Sports fan, what's happening? Marco, what's happening? Yes, they certainly are. Trey says, when you start to look more into the stats, the Braves are currently 21-23 against teams with a greater than record of 500. They could falter just like any other team. Yeah, like I said, it's baseball. Anything could happen. It's unpredictable. I think this is really an even matchup for the most part. I think it's really like a 50-50 or like a 51-49, maybe because you have the home field advantage and you're 8-2 in your last 10. So maybe you say that. But right now, I think this is really, a fair, easy matchup, like I said, for the most part. So, like I said, this will be a big series. Take 3 at 5. That's all I'm asking for. I did read that. So, Camden, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. He says, so do you think the Mets are going to rely on Dolly Rodriguez as they're so lefty in the bullpen for the rest of the season? Yeah, I really don't know, man. Unless they're going to go out and put David Peterson in a bullpen role, I think right now it's really undecided to tell. I don't know what the Mets are going to do with that. Do you put David Peterson in a bullpen role? Like I said, we're honestly going to have to see how the Mets go for it. Like I said, there's really no one in AAA, that you can call up that's a lefty that is really known. So, yeah, like I said, right now I think it's tough that, even if it's not a lefty, just simply going after, a bullpen arm really would have been nice, to say for the least, for the Mets. This trade deadline. Like I said, you have September call-up, so you have that too. You could always still call up, there's roster construction. It's not the end of the world. Oh, Damien, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. He says, you think the Mets should call up Francisco Alvarez since they need a reliable catcher? Yeah, right now, Nito's been doing an okay job. I don't want to say he's been doing great, but he's not been doing, completely horrible. Mazika's doing what I guess most Mets fans expect of him. Obviously, McCann's been out for the whole season, and, the 2 games he's practically played hasn't really done much. So, to say for the least, it's looking possible, and the Mets pretty much have came out and said that, if they didn't go after a catcher at the deadline, it'd most likely mean, that, a guy like, that, a guy kind of like Francisco Alvarez would probably get called up. And that's seeming to be it this season. So as of right now, if you want my honest opinion, I'd probably say they are. Maybe a September call-up, like I said. He's in AAA. He's kind of just starting to figure out what he's been doing. So, hopefully right now he can continue to do what he's doing, like I said. So, yeah, we'll honestly have to wait and see. But I think it is a realistic thing for the Mets to call up Alvarez. Tracer should be an awesome series. Best of 5 playoff type in baseball in August. What more can you ask? I want the Mets to win 3 of 5, but honestly, it depends on the bullpen. Hopefully they don't blow it. Yeah, like I said, bullpen is going to be a huge asset to the series, to say for the least. It's really going to be a big deciding factor for them, obviously. But like I said, you take 3 of 5, and that's really all I'm asking for. So yeah, like I said, you take 3 of 5, and then you have a pretty good shot at success this series. Yeah, 3 of 5, like I said. Imagine the Mets came in and took 4 of 5, or something like that. That would be absolutely insane. But take 3 of 5, and I think you got a pretty fair likelihood of Mets fans being happy and the series being a success. And I do apologize if I am sniffling a lot. I do have a little bit of a cold now. So if you've been seeing like scratch my nose or itch my face or sniffling a lot, that is why I do apologize if that is a little annoying. Marco says Degrom and Scherzer back-to-back is going to be fire. 100%, man. I mean, this is what we've all been waiting for all season. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for practically since the lockout. I mean, this is something that all Mets fans are excited to see. Degrom, Scherzer, the best 1-2 punch in baseball as it is right now. So, I mean, I'm super excited for it. Hopefully, it could really continue to, be a dominant. I mean, simply enough, going into a playoff series with that 1-2 punch is just absolutely insane to think about on paper. So hopefully they can continue to do the job well. Yeah, that's really all I'm going to ask for out of them. Cal says thoughts on Darren Ruff obtainment. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty okay signing to say for the least. Right now he has good numbers against lefties. Obviously, a dominant OPS and 900 against lefties. So, right now, I think that was a big reason the Mets brought him in. Kind of platoon at the DH role with Vogelbach. Vogelbach hits righties. Ruff hits lefties. He's a veteran. I get it. He's 35, 36. So he's not really a long-term investment. I understand that. That's okay. Did you overpay for him? Sure. So hopefully, you can get the best value out of him, like I said. But right now, like I said, DH, first baseman type, easily, like I said, platoon with Vogelbach, hit against lefties. That's probably going to be the big thing he's going to come in for. Otherwise, it was an okay signing. I'm not like crazy about it. I would have much rather have gone after a guy like Mancini. Really, really anyone else kind of but that, I would say, for the least. So, but like I said, it's all right. What are you going to do? Darren Ruff is a good player. The Mets got a good pickup. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's an okay signing. Don't get me wrong, I would have much rather have gone after, a Mancini or a Contreras 100% for the offense. But I'll take it, like I said, for a DH. Right now, Vogelbach and what Ruff would do has been, much more than what, JD and Dom have done for the whole season at the DH role. So, I'll take it right now. I really will. Yes, exactly, Peter. That's funny. I read off of what you were saying. Yeah, so Vogelbach would be against lefties, and Vogelbach would be righties. Ruff would be against lefties, 100%. Elliot says, "Let's freaking go Blue Jays." What's going on, Elliot? Ooh, I never even thought of that. That's a good thing, Elliot. Elliot says, "I wonder what will happen if the Blue Jays make the playoffs. How will U.S. teams enter?" That's a good point because, if we see like with the whole player, and I don't want to get into this too much, with the whole vaccination stuff, I wonder because, it's a much bigger thing than, a 3-game series and guys like Nolan Arenado and whoever aren't allowed to enter the country. That's one thing. But if it's a playoff series, I think, that could easily, be a thing with MLB and the Players Union to really have an issue with. And obviously, that's beyond their control. That's, the Canadian government. But maybe you could see them playing Buffalo. I think Blue Jay fans would be upset to see a playoff game not being played in Rogers Center. But, let's say a team like the Yankees make it. Are they not going to be happy that they can't bring in, 5-6 guys from their roster? And I'm not going to say, oh, it's right or wrong, but I think the players and, the union are not going to be happy about that. So maybe they play in Buffalo. I think that may be a possibility. Maybe they try and figure something out where they're quarantined in their hotel and they're only permitted to leave for the game. I really don't know. I think that's a really interesting thing, Elliot, that I really never thought of that. Damien says maybe the Mets calling up a pitcher instead of giving up a pitcher. That's probably what it's going to be. But like I said, you look at the Mets farm system right now, and you have some pitching depth. I'm glad the Mets kind of drafted plenty of pitching this draft because he needed it. But it's like, really no one like, I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is, a lot of your top tier pitching guys are, single A, double A. So, I mean, besides Jose Butto, whose ETA is this year, you have him. So, I mean, maybe he could be a little bit of an X factor. Otherwise, yeah, it's all rookie ball or A ball for most pitching. Christian Sky, yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. There's always, guys that are free agents who could, make a small little move, I guess. Traces, who's going to be the Mets setup man? Yeah, man, I mean, right now, I really don't know. I mean, right now, I would like to say Lugo, but right now, is he going to be the setup man? Have the Mets established that they have trust in Lugo to go that 8th, and then Diaz the 9th in a close game situation? That's really the question. I mean, before I was a little upset with the Holderman trade. With the Colin Holderman trade, it was weird. I mean, you really took 2 steps backward and then you took 2 steps forward and then a step backwards because you needed a bat, but then you also needed bullpen help. So it's like you got Vogelback great, but then you kind of destroyed your bullpen a little bit more, considering that Holderman's been one of the few guys who've been very consistent this season. So, yeah, kind of really interesting, that thing. You could have had Holderman, maybe. But right now, it'd probably be a Lugo, where it depends. I mean, if you're going into the 8th inning and, you have the meat of the order up in a lineup, it's, the Harpers of the lineup and your Bettses of the lineup and Freeman's of the lineup, you would like that lefty, that Dolly Rodriguez, to get in there, but would he be considered a setup man to have trust in? I don't know. Oh, Damien says, I think the Mets should have targeted Nathan Eovaldi. Yeah, I haven't really. That's an interesting one. I've never really thought much about Nathan Eovaldi. Let's see how he's doing in Boston. He's having a pretty good year. Okay, year 5. He's having an all right year, I guess. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. Kind of, I guess a little bit of depth. Rich Hill could have been a little interesting of a guy to go after. I know the Mets got him at the deadline last year, and kind of a bullpen guy, could eat innings, kind of like a Trevor Williams, could be a starter, but more so a bullpen guy, can go 4 innings. So I think Hill could have been a nice guy. Still has some stuff left in the tank. I know Big Dick Mountain is like 40-something years old right now, but nice slider. He still has some of his stuff intact. Cal, what's going on? Let's go Mets, 100%. Kobe says, in my opinion, the Mets gave up way too much to get Darren Ruff. I'll miss JD, though. Yeah, I never mentioned how we lost JD Davis. Yeah, I mean, right now, I think it's really, with JD, he had his time to shine, and the Mets gave him multiple chances, and he just wasn't able to get the job done. I think overall right now, when you look at JD Davis, is that he had that hand injury last season, and, they said that it's going to take him a year to recover to get his power back. And I guess the Mets just weren't really willing to give him a strong enough chance. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Yes, as I was saying, with JD, like I said, really unfortunate. Like I said, you kind of lost him. Don't get me wrong, the Mets gave him multiple chances, and he just wasn't executing at the DH. I mean, we'd see times where, Davis would come in and just, simply enough go, I don't know, whatever, 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. I mean, it's just right now, like I said, it's not like the Mets didn't give JD a chance. Same with Dom Smith, and I'm more impressed that Dom Smith is here and JD Davis left. If anything, I would have thought it was Dom Smith would have been gone. I mean, I get it. Maybe Dom offers a little bit much more, considering that he could play a position, unlike Davis, who's a DH with horrible, defense. So, I mean, that could have been, a key reason why they kept Smith and not Davis. But I wish him the best of luck. He'll be in his hometown, so I'm sure he'll like it. Kind of, really weird to see him leave. I know he's been with the Mets since 2019, obviously, and he's not like a homegrown player or anything. But I don't know. Just Mets fans had a really good connection with JD, I felt. Seth says, rage talk with Hayden. Oh, Damien says, from what I'm hearing, the Mets didn't want to give up Ronnie and a couple other prospects for Wilson, and the Cubs already wanted Ronnie other prospects. Yeah, I think that was pretty much a pretty big reason why for the most part. And that makes sense. Like, I get it. They didn't want to touch their farm. But, when you look at guys like Robertson, Phillies gave up like Logan O something. What was it, like Logan O Happy or whatever his name was for like nothing. So I think, you easily could have got a guy like David Robertson or a bullpen arm without really giving up anything practically. Contreras would have cost you, much more, obviously. It would have, costed you a lot. The Cubs wanted Alvarez, and I don't think there was any way the Mets wanted to give up Alvarez or, simply enough what they were asking out of the Mets. So, I understand why completely. I really do. But, yeah, just right now the Mets wanted to keep their farm, and I understand. So I feel the Mets call up Alvarez. And that's probably the route they're going to take up, Damien, to be honest. Right now, I would strongly imagine that the Mets didn't address their catching position at the deadline. I really doubt they're going to stick with Nito and McCann for the rest of the season. So maybe you call up Alvarez to start to platoon, get a couple reps in, get some wiggle room, depending on how the Mets are playing, give them a chance. I think that's probably what they're going to go for. And that's fair. But, yeah, like I said, we will just have to wait and see, I guess. Connor says, did the Mets do enough by adding Darren Ruff and Michael Givens? No, they did not. Gregory says September is easy from what I've heard. Yeah. Peter says, so happy Degrom is back. Degrom looked really good as always. Just need to get him some run support. And that's been the thing with Degrom since – pretty much he started for the most part. He simply enough just needs to get the run support. The offense needs to score runs for him. Game 1 and 3, the offense is on fire. But the one game DeGrom starts, they, get one run, and it's when he's out of the game. So, DeGrom is simply enough going to need the run support that he's going to get. Right now, he can't give himself any more run support because, obviously, pitchers can no longer hit. We have the DH implemented in the National League since this past CBA. So right now, simply enough, DeGrom is going to need some run support. That is going to be the number one thing overall for the Mets. Give DeGrom run support because you really don't want DeGrom starts to, and we've seen DeGrom's record, and and the Mets have a record of being 48, 47 with him. And it's not that he's bad. He's good. It's the offense is bad when he's in. And that's kind of been the thing for DeGrom for ages. Here's a story I'll say. The last game I went to at Citi Field was in 2019. And it was Players Weekend Day against the Braves. It was DeGrom on the mound against Mike Foltynewicz. And that really tells you something. But Foltynewicz was actually okay back then. And DeGrom struck out 9 hitters in a row, tying Tom Seaver's record. Mets scored 1 run for him. That was it. The Mets scored one single run for him. So, little stuff like that is really going to be the factor for the Mets ahead. They got to start scoring runs for DeGrom. Hopefully this is old news. Last year, I feel they did. I think last year the offense was much better when it came to run support for DeGrom. There were times where the bullpen would blow it or, something like, whatever would happen. But right now, as it seems to be, the Mets are going to have to start, driving in some runs, for DeGrom. So that's going to be the biggest thing for him. Kobe says, when is Tyler Mcgill set to return from the injury list? I haven't heard a whole lot from Tyler Mcgill, to be honest. Like, I think his mom tweets on Twitter, like, how he's doing, which is good to see. Right now, I'd say maybe a week or two, I hope. Maybe he'll probably go back to the bullpen. That's what I'd assume. Camden agrees, of course, man. Davis Pop. Interesting name. I like that name, man. He says, great channel, man. Been a Met fan since 1990. Nice, man. I appreciate you tuning in to the stream. If you are not already, subscribe, hit that like button. If you have any comments ever, Davis, drop them below. Obviously, it seems you've been a Met fan for quite a while now. So definitely, if you have any comments, questions, if you have any stories, I know some people like to comment, some stories or stuff, drop them below. Like I said, I know it says Mets talk, but we just here to talk baseball. Mets, Phillies, anything. Trace is a healthy Degrom, added on to Scherzer, Walker, Bassett, Carrasco. This team will be in the World Series. Yeah, I mean, you look at that rotation, and it looks like a pretty darn good rotation for the most part. I mean, simply enough, going into a playoff series with the Degrom, Scherzer, and questionable on who that third starter will be, probably Carrasco as it stands right now. I mean, that looks like a really good rotation. And then obviously, you have a second rotation expanded of Peterson, Williams, Mcgill. Luke Hazy should be coming back soon, a guy who has not been talked about at all. The SNY broadcast, I think, mentioned his name like once this year. And I mean, speaking of Luke Hazy, he's actually been probably mentioned more times on this channel than the SNY broadcast has brought him up in the past year. So hopefully a guy like Luke Hazy can come back and be a really good X factor for this team. And I definitely think Luke Hazy can be a good X factor for this team. Connor says, how many home runs does Pete Alonso finish the season with? So right now he's at 29. He was 29th yesterday. I think he could easily finish with 42. I think he could finish with 42. Yeah. This dude's power is just insane. It's simply enough really great to see. So I'm going to go probably 42, 43. Sports Fan says, do you call up Mark Vientos or Francisco Alvarez for September 1st? Yeah, I mean, an Alvarez call-up is likely, considering that the Mets have kind of stuck with the platoon with Ruff and Vogelbach. I don't know if they'll call up Vientos, to be honest, but probably Alvarez. Gregory says, this team brings me so much joy. Us Mets fans are truly blessed to have a team like this that we could watch for 3.5 hours almost every night. Also, the best booth in baseball, Gary, Keith, and Ron. Yeah, that's true, man. Obviously, and this is biased aside, I think the Mets do have one of the best broadcasts in the league. I mean, and I'm being told this by Mets fans, Braves fans, Phillies fans, Red Sox fans. They say that the Mets have an awesome broadcast, and I mean, it makes sense. Their broadcast is really great. To say for the least. I mean, I love what, they do. I mean, they make it much more enjoyable. I mean, they obviously talk about this team's history, which is great. That's what all broadcasts should do. I mean, there's broadcasts around the league where, they're like, oh, there's, a deep fly ball to center and that is a home run. No, at least Gary, Keith and Ron have attitude. They have a personality. They laugh. There's sarcasm. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of times where, they don't talk about baseball, but, they keep it to an interesting topic that's not boring. Like the Apple TV broadcast. I mean, they talk about the most foolish stuff in there. I mean, they're talking about like Brazilian food. Come on. Where at least Gary, Keith, and Ron make it entertaining. So, I mean, that's really what I respect out of those guys. Michael, he says, let's go Dodgers. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Dodgers fan. Yeah, Dodgers are looking pretty good. I believe you guys swept the Giants. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was actually catching some of that game. Usually I like to watch, once the Met game's over, I usually like to watch a West Coast game. So usually MLB Network usually shows the Dodgers or Padres now. So sometimes I like to catch up on that. Mets fan says Mets bats are looking good. Plenty of 2-out strike hitting, 2-out hitting, and hitting with runners in scoring position. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you that this team is looking much more consistent than they have been for most of the season. I'd say for the least. Like I said, earlier this season they were phenomenal in all those stats. Took a little bit of a dive back, but I think they're starting to get a little bit back into that part that they were in the first half. So hopefully they can continue to hit 2 outs, fundamental hitting, selective hitting, and you could be a really successful team. And I think a lot of guys like McNeil, Lindor, Marte, Nimmo are great attributes to that. So we will see. Kobe says, don't want to jinx anything. However, Lugo has been looking really good lately. Yeah, hopefully you don't. Yeah, I'll agree with you. Lugo has been looking good. I mean, the command on his secondary pitches has been a big part to his success lately. So hopefully he can just continue to stay consistent with that, keep command of the strike zone there. And I mean, he's in for a really good second half. Camden says, will the Mets win 100 games? Well, right now I believe they are on pace. Usually after every game, win or loss, Anthony DiComo tweets out like a little bit of like a, 200-word recap of the game, and then puts the projected finishing record. And I believe right now, I think there were like 103 and 60 something around those lines. So that, I mean, those are really good numbers considering the Mets have only finished with 100 games. I mean, the 86 team, how many wins did the 86 team? They got like 107, 108, I think. 108, yeah. 108 and 54, which was a 667, winning percentage. So, I mean, right now you look at Twitter, and I can go to what Tacomo's tweet was yesterday. Let's see what Tacomo said yesterday. I'll just search his name up. There's no point in looking back at the like. Anthony Tacomo. Actually, like Anthony Tacomo. He's a pretty good beat writer. Let's see. So Tacomo did he not tweet it out yesterday? Oh, he did. So yeah, they are expected to be 103 and 59. So I mean, those are unbelievably phenomenal stats. I think that'd be, I don't want to say the second or third best record I think they've ever had. Mets have never really had 100 wins in their history. I mean, you look at that 2015 squad, 2015 MLB standings. I think they got so close. They got to 90. So, I mean, if that's one thing, 2016 they made the wild card, so they probably nowhere even near 100. 87. How about the 06 team? The 06 team, 97, so almost there. 07, we don't need to discuss what happened there, but we'll just look at their final standings. 88, 08, and then that'll probably bring us back into a little bit of earlier. 08 was 89. How about 1988? Kind of just looking at like the general years where they were successful. Well, that was when you had the two division. What was their standings? I don't care how many games they were. I want to know their standings. Mets 1988 record. 100 and then they had 60 losses. 1973 Mets record. I'm kind of just 82 and 79, and they still managed to make the pennant. That's mind-boggling. How about the 69 team? 69 team, 162. Okay, so yeah, I mean, for the most part, this would be expected. It's 3 games, so take it with a grain of salt. But if they get 103 wins, that'd be the second highest in their franchise history, behind the 86 team that had 100 and, I think it was 108, 107. I don't know what I said. I forgot. But we'll see. I mean, do I expect it? We'll see. Keep in mind, you do have a really easy schedule in September. So I think you definitely have the opportunity for it there. So we will see quite ahead. I mean, I think there'll be plenty of teams that win 100 games. The Yankees, the Dodgers, possibly the Braves. We'll see. Who knows? Imagine the Braves and Mets are like 100 and then like 99. That'd be pretty interesting. Maybe the Padres. You know, they've definitely been crazy hot, especially with the acquisition of Soto. That was a really good move for them. So, I mean, we'll see. There's definitely, definitely more great possibilities that this team can easily get 103 wins. I mean, that'd be great if they did. Douglas, what's going on? Douglas says, do you think Francisco Alvarez will make his major league debut in the next month or so? Yeah, I think it's a September call-up. I think it's certainly possible as a September call-up. Marco says W series, but L trade deadline. Agree with you on that. Electric Voltage. I really like that username, man. He says, are the Padres better than the Dodgers? It's tough. I mean, right now, I really do. I mean, you look at what the Padres added with Soto, and then they're going to get Tatis back. Whether Tatis will be in 100% form when he returns is one thing, but you're still going to get great production out of him, probably better production out of him when he's not at his full potential than what Hassan Kim is providing. He's been doing all right, Hassan Kim. I mean, let's do a little examination. I know we did this like when I first started my channel, and I don't know. I know we have a Dodgers fan in the chat, so if you have any, comments on this, please do not hesitate. And if there's any Padres fans listening, same thing. So let's look at the Dodgers versus the Padres lineup. So let's look at the rotation, actually. I mean, right now, let's start off with the Dodgers rotation. So you have Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, Tyler Anderson, and Andrew Heaney. Buehler should be coming back soon. Dustin May should be coming back shortly from Tommy John. So, those are two great guys there. That's unfortunately on the IL. Urias is having an all right season. Long ball has been a little bit of a worry, but like I said, pretty good, adequate numbers. He started off the season slow, but doing well. Kershaw's having a phenomenal season. We'll leave it at that. Tony Gonsolin, really underrated season, phenomenal season, huge breakout guy for them. Tyler Anderson, another guy that nobody cared for the Pirates, having a phenomenal season. So the moral of the story is breakout seasons from Tony Gonsolin, Tyler Anderson, and Andrew Heaney. I mean, I get it. Heaney's only pitched 23 innings, so take it with a grain of salt. But still, I didn't expect any of those three guys to put up the numbers that they did this season. So I think it's phenomenal, to say for the least. Right now, I mean, you look at the Padres lot, you look at the Padres rotation. It was expected to be better. Obviously, Snell's hasn't really, got his whole full self on what he was hoped it to be. He's been showing some light. His last couple starts have been great. Darvish is having a great season. He's really showing what he could be after all. Joe Musgrove having a really great season. Sean Manaea, lefty, he's having an all right season. Nothing great, nothing bad. Clevenger, he has recently been starting. We know that he was out for a while. He's been having a great season. He's 60 innings already, so he's had his fair share of time. Obviously, I mean, you acquired Hader. The bullpen's been looking pretty good. Tim Hill, I really like him. Nick Martinez, Luis Garcia, Adrian Marjan. A lot of injuries for the bullpen. Like I said, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 reliable guys that are in the 60-day IL, 1 on the 15-day IL. So we'll see. In terms of this lineup, I mean, Will Smith, great catcher. I mean, Freddie Freeman, Gavin Lux. I mean, Max Muncy hasn't really been having it. Hopefully, Max Muncy could figure something out. Justin Turner, Trey Turner. I mean, you look at that outfield. Outfield, besides Mookie Betts, hasn't been like great. I mean, yeah, Chris Taylor's great, but I mean, Bellinger hasn't really been what he's hoped it to be. Muncy's been a little slow. You brought in Gallo, and we'll see how that goes. And then you look at the Padres lineup. I mean, the behind the plate, splitting time between Austin Nolan and Alfaro, that's really nasty. You brought in Josh Bell. You have Will Myers, Jake Cronenworth. You brought in Brandon Drury. He's been great for them. You have Machado. You have Tatis on the IL. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Jurickson Profar, Nomar Mazara, Trent Grisham. You have Juan Soto. You have Will Myers. So, I mean, right now it's a really good team. Like I said, we'll see on paper. And I believe, right now, I believe the Dodgers are playing the Padres this weekend, tomorrow. So they play a 1, 2, 3 game set in LA. So, I mean, we'll have to figure out our answer there. Whoever wins the series. It's not going to determine it, but that'll be a big factor to say who. Drunk, what's going on, Drunk? Drunk says, just came from a Yankee stream there, crying over there about Garrett Cole. Uh-oh. Yeah, Cole did, unfortunately did not have his best stuff yesterday. 6 runs in the first inning, giving up a 2-run homer to a very well-known guy that us Mets fans know in Jared Kelenic. Michael says, one more game with the Giants at 12:45 today. Keep up the good work, Hayden. I appreciate it. So, yeah, you guys do have a game against the Giants, and I believe that would be a sweep if you win it. Giants have had a really rough season. Yeah, you would sweep if you win it today. It's an afternoon game, or, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the kind words. Alex says, how is Dom Smith still a Met and JD Davis not? I was thinking the same thing, too. I really don't know. I mean, maybe I'm thinking because Dom can give you a little bit more because he plays a position, where JD is literally just a DH. I mean, it's not like JD is going to go out and play third, or I get it. JD can play first periodically, but that was like a 1 or 2 time thing this season. So yeah, where at least Dom can be an alternate position player, where JD's defense is horrible. I mean, you don't really want to put JD at third. I mean, you're not going to put him in the outfield. So, right now it was really just DH or bench, or DH or off day for him. So where at least Dom gave us a little bit more. I get it. Dom doesn't offer any power. He's really just been a single double hitter, hasn't hit a homer in over a year. So, and I'm surprised no one's really talked about how Dom Smith is still with this team. I mean, I was on the last 10 streams. I said Dom Smith will not be a Met after the deadline. And I mean, hey, it's still possible they could trade him or send him down and just keep him in AAA for the rest of the year. But I don't know. I mean, Dom's a guy who's been a really long story. I mean, I've said, that he's had his fair share of issues in the past, the sleep apnea, he was a little overweight, but he got those taken care of. And I mean, he just still isn't really the player he is. I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's even a major league player. He could just be a AAA player. He's a guy who really gets thrown off by his schedule. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. So we'll just have to see what Dom could, provide the next couple weeks. I mean, hopefully now that allegedly his spot is safe on the team, hopefully that'll, kind of, amp him up a little bit more to play better and, hit the ball better, hit for a little bit of power, maybe go the other way every now and then. So Dom Smith is going to need to wake up big time, or this offseason he's definitely gone, which it probably will be anyways. Teddy, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. Teddy says most of the players that were signed with other teams can be picked up at the winter meeting. Mets keep farmhand and can see better where they need help to improve. Now, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of these guys, if they do go to the free agent route, you could still get them in the offseason. So, like I said, that's definitely that opportunity there. But like I said, it'd be nice to have them now, get him in the spot right now. But no, I see what you're saying, man. Damian says, on paper, yes, the Padres look better, but in-game is a different story. We'll see on Friday. Yeah, pretty much. Outman been doing great, and he's barely been called up. Yeah, the Dodgers, I saw he was it a double or a triple shy of the cycle a couple days ago. And they brought up Vargas up yesterday, who's been great. Yeah, I think he got his first major league hit yesterday. So Dodgers have been calling up their farm. I have been paying a little bit of attention to their farm lately because of that. And they've been doing a good job. Considering right now Bellinger's been having another slow season. Buncey's been having a slow season. And I mean, 2 of your biggest offensive contributors allegedly are having a rough season, but you're still getting the job done. I mean, Freeman's been elite. Trey Turner's been elite. Justin Turner's been elite. Tracy Thompson. I mean, who would have thought this dude's been having a pretty good season for the most part with them? So, I mean, tip of the cap to the Dodgers. They're getting the job done. That's really what you like to see out of them. I feel the Dodgers have more faith in the farm than they did in Soto. Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, you could have brought in Soto. I think the Padres probably need a little bit more, considering that, I mean, I would much rather take the Dodgers outfield prior to the Soto trade than the Padres outfield. But yeah, I agree with you. So we are probably going to call it a stream here, everyone. I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream as always. We had a great dialogue in the chat as always. Great comments, great questions as always. Like I said, in today's stream, we went over the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals series summary. Then we went over the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves series preview. The New York Mets are going home, and the Atlanta Braves are coming into Citi Field to play a 5-game set against the Atlanta Braves, who have been very hot lately. So we'll see how things can share there. That's going to be a huge series. Definitely can determine the first place in the division right now. It's not the end of the world, but the next 15, the next 18 days are going to be a huge determination on what happens for this New York Mets team, if they'll remain in the role they are, if they'll fall out to second place in a wild card. So, I mean, like I said, honestly, right now, we're just going to have to see. I think it's going to be a really exciting next couple weeks. I'm excited. But as always, I really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream. As always, like I said, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications so you never miss a stream or video. Tell your friends about this channel. Like I said, if you're not a Mets fan, it's cool. I like to talk anything baseball on here as always. Yeah, otherwise, I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream as always. Mets are playing a 5-game set tonight. Going to be a super, super, super exciting series. So keep an eye out on that. I'll be live once that series is over to break down that series. Hopefully we're happy. Take 3 out of 5 would be ideal. Let's hope we could see some great stuff for them ahead. Otherwise, I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. LFGM, let's get it rolling. Let's take this series against the Atlanta Braves. Take 3 out of 5, 100%. Otherwise, I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.